Hello, Accounting 1. Today we're in 12-2, Work Together. You see it's here on page 357. Today we're going to learn about withholdings and federal tax withholdings, Social Security withholdings, and Medicare withholdings from your employees when you are paying them. All right, so this is federal law. Don't make this up. It's in your book in 12-2. And we're really going to need the book on pages 353 and 354 because you're going to have to find the federal withholding tax for each employee depending on if they're married or single. All right, so the instructions here say determine the federal income tax that must be withheld for each employee. The tax withholding tables is in lesson 12-2 of your textbook. Calculate the amount of Social Security and Medicare tax that must be withheld for each employee. Use a Social Security tax of 6.2% and a Medicare tax rate of 1.5%. None of the employees has accumulated earnings greater than the tax base. Round dollar amounts to the nearest cent. So I'm going to take this one step at a time, okay? First thing it says, determine the federal income tax that must be withheld for each employee. So here I have John, and John is married with 2 withholding allowances. When you are employed, you tell the IRS, you tell the government how many withholdings that you want. Now, some people would put 2 here if they had 2 kids. They'd put 1 here if they had just themselves. Here's 3. The more that you put here, the more money you get to take home in your take-home pay. However, you may need to pay taxes to the government at the end of the year. If you put a 0 here, the government will take out the least amount of money, or sorry, back that up. The government will take out the most amount of money from your paycheck as a federal income tax withholding. If you put a 0 here, when you're hired, you have to fill out a W-4. And if you put 0 on there, they will take the most amount of money out each paycheck for your federal income tax withholding. All right. Then at the end of the year, in the spring, before April 15th, you have to file your income tax. And if you file that income tax form, you find out if they withheld too much. If they did, then you get that back in a refund check. If they did not hold enough, you have to write them a check to even out what you owe them. Okay, so for this problem here, for this exercise, we're finding out how much their federal income tax withholding is for each one of these employees, and it's based off of their total earnings. So John is married, so I'm going to page 354. Page 354 for the chart that's there. He's married. He has 2 withholding allowances. So in this chart, I'm going to use the column that has 2 at the top. Has 2 at the top. I'm going to find the earnings range for him, for John. Down the right-hand side of the column, it has ranges of income. The first one says, I can't see it. I got to get my magnifying glass here. The first one says $1,060 to $1,080. And the second line says $1,080 to $1,100, and so on and so on. So you go down and you find the line that has where $1,360 would fall in there. Now for $1,360, it's on 2 different lines. It's on 2 different lines. But if you'll notice at the top of the columns, it says at least this amount on the left. And then the right column of wages says, but less than. So because of that, I have to go to the second line that has $1,360 because that's at least, and that's how much he earned. Then I go over to the column that has the 2 stay on that same line and go over to the column that has 2, and I see that he has to pay $52 for the second column. So he has to pay $52. Now we're going to try the next one. We're going to find the range. Janice made $980, but Janice is single. So you got to go to the chart that's on page 353. Go to the chart that's on page 353. Look up at the top, and in bold it says single. This is a single chart. And so you have to find the range where her $980 falls in. And it falls in a range of at least $980 and $1,000. So everybody who gets paid between $980 and $1,000 pays the same thing for federal tax. And she has one deduction. So she has to pay $79. Okay? Everyone who is single with one deduction that earns $980 to $1,000 pays $79. Now let's go back to the married chart for Terry. We go back to the married chart for Terry. This is page 354. Terry is married. She has 3 allowances, so I'm going to go to the column that says 3. And this, she made $1,510. $1,510. Well, that is between $1,500 and $1,520. So she's right in the middle of that range. So that's why I have to go with that line. And then I go over to the 3 column because she has 3 deductions. And she pays $50 for her federal income tax. Now, if this is confusing to you folks, slow down, go back through this video, go through these pages that I'm telling you, so that you can get this. All right, this is all in 12-2. This is little bitty writing, so I get that. I've got a magnifying glass to be able to see this. The next one is Anthony. He's single, so I got to go to the single chart. Anthony made $1,125. And so the range that I have to look at for Anthony is the income range of $1,120 to $1,140. And he has 2 deductions. So he has to pay $77. Okay. So I hope you get that. All right. Now I'm going to show you with Social Security. You're going to take their earnings and you're going to multiply times 0.062, and that comes from this right here. All right. And then Medicare rate is 1.45%. So with this, you're going to multiply 0.0145 to get these dollar amounts right here. Okay. Now this was from the chart. You have to use the total earnings. You're basing all of this on total earnings. Each one of these numbers is based on total earnings. Chart in the book needs to know how many deductions, and it needs to know the marital status, because you have to use the right chart. Okay? I hope that makes sense. Now, I'm going to go in and do these for you. So again, I'm basing this on their income. So this is 1360 times 0.062. So John is paying $84.32 to Social Security. And Janice made $980. So she's paying $60.76 Social Security. Terry earned $15.10. So Terry's paying $93.62 to Social Security. And Anthony made $11.25. So he's paying $69.75. Now, all of us have a Social Security number, right? And so this money that you earn goes into your Social Security account under your Social Security number. But I need you to understand that Social Security and Medicare, whatever the employee, this is the employee, whatever they pay into it, the employer matches it and puts that also in their account by their Social Security number. Listen to me again. Social Security tax, Medicare tax, both of these, the employee pays a percentage of their earnings, and the employer matches this into their account, the employee account. Okay? So your boss, my boss, when I pay $84.32 into my Social Security, my boss is matching that into my Social Security. Now over here with a Medicare thing, $19.72 is what I got for that one. If I'm John, then $19.72 is going to come out of my earnings and go to my account for Medicare, but my employer is also putting in $19.72 under my account. If I'm John, I put, in this case, because I've made $13.60, I put $84.32 out of my pay, comes out of my pay, and goes into my Social Security account. But my employer has to match that. $19.72 is also taken out of my total earnings. That goes into my account, but my employer matches that as well. Okay, so these two, the employer matches. All right, so we got to find out for Janice. Janice made $980, and we got to find out how much she's paying towards Medicare. She's paying $14.21. And Terry made $1,510. She's paying $21.90. You have to round up. If you have a, remember, this is money we're talking about. And then Anthony made $11.25, and he has to pay $16.31. Okay, and that's all we have to do for this assignment. That's it. All right, so save and continue, and go do the on your own. On your own, you can do it. You can do it. Follow this video. Stay well and stay safe. Bye.